Shazam: The New Beginning, issue 3, Roy Thomas and Dan Thomas, with Tom Mandrake on the art. This, of course, is the third part of the 4-part series, and it kind of fulfills the Black Adam origin role of the run. It's kind of like most, I mean, not all of it, but it's like the middle part of it is the Wizard explaining who Teth Adam is, how he gave him his power, and how that kind of backfired, and he banished him to another dimension, and obviously Savannah is the one who brought him back, and Billy kind of puts 2 and 2 together and goes and charges ahead.
Yeah, this issue's really split really neatly into 3 parts. You have the beginning section with Billy and his uncle, and go into the news reporter.
Yeah.
And then you have all the Shazam, Wizard, Black Adam origin stuff, and then you have all the Savannah stuff at the end.
Yeah, it's kind of, but I think it's a good issue overall. I think it has a lot of fun little beats. Some of the plot line, I think Billy going to the radio station is a little bit on the clunky side. It feels a little bit old-fashioned to me.
I think my problem with it is it's just superfluous. And then you have, the Savannah kids show up for no real reason. It doesn't actually add anything if they show up or not.
Yeah, it really, because ultimately after that he says, okay, there's one other person I can go see to maybe figure out what's going on with Black Adam. And that's when he goes to the Wizard. He goes to the subway to go see the Wizard. And it's like, he could have just made that choice at the start. And it just went straight there. Yeah,
like I get the idea of him wanting to help. And he thinks this is a way he can help by sharing that information. I get that in concept, but I don't understand what it comes, because he gets there and tells the story, and she's just like, all right then, and then he falls asleep and has to escape out the window, and that kind of adds nothing.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like just a filler little side arc, well, not arc, but like a little side sort of mission that he doesn't really need to do. Like, I think him seeing on TV that it's happened is kind of good, because it's like the guilt of his failure is kind of important, and that kind of really hits that home for him again. But he really could just make the choice to sneak out and go see the Wizard after that. He doesn't have to go to the radio station first. I mean, I did kind of, the little jokes about the nosy neighbor kind of hearing the lightning, and even the people at the station saying, "Oh man, that thunder sounded like it came from inside the building. That was weird." Like,
yeah,
there's a few little cute lines or whatever that I did kind of chuckle at, but ultimately the first kind of third, the first like sort of 8 pages, you, for the most part, you can kind of just gloss over them and get to the real meat, which is when he goes down into the subway and to find the Wizard. And it's kind of, this is one of these weird things where reading this from a modern context, where we've read other Shazam origin stories, or we've read whatever, or we just know the general gist of things, is that this is one of these things where this issue probably suffers the most out of the 4, because I think where the story stops to then tell the Black Adam backstory, there's nothing wrong with it. It's solid in what it's doing, but there's nothing really that interesting about how this book tells this story that makes me go, oh, that's interesting that this has this take on it, or it has this element to it that I've not seen before, which isn't really the book's fault in a lot of ways. I mean, because I can't really criticize it for not having an interesting spin on a part of the story that I'm kind of not bored by, but I think
it's not presented then. It's Shazam Shazam the Wizard just telling the story with some historical inaccuracies that bugged me a little bit.
Which ones in particular?
Well, just the introduction to it. In the Egypt of, I mean, if you really want to be loose with more than 3 millennia past, before the age of the pyramids, when the pyramids are like 4,500-5,000 years old. I'm like, I mean, technically that is still more than 3 millennia, but it's fudging what you mean there. Clearly,
I think the writing's got some wiggle room.
If you say more than 5 millennia, no problem. Everyone knows what you mean there. But more than 3, you're thinking more than 3 implies in the 3 to 4 range.
But technically, it's more than 3, so you can't fault them.
I guess not.
Technically, the text as it's on the page is accurate. It's more than 3 millennia.
It is true.
So, what are you going to do? And I also think that it's kind of like a dull heel turn from Black Adam, because it says that Teth Adam, he didn't start as a villain. He was doing what was right for his people, And then it's just this one moment where he's putting the tip of the pyramid up, right? He's just finishing this pyramid off, and he looks down and sees them as ants and goes, hey, I could rule over people, and decides to be evil. There's not really anything interesting in the heel turn. There's not really interesting motivation for it.
I think these days Black Adam is such an interesting character. A really multifaceted, really dynamic character. Whereas this is, we need to tell you he went evil in the space of a page.
I feel like this backstory for Black Adam feels like it's something that didn't really get updated. I mean, maybe there's differences to whatever it was before, but this feels like it's right out of the Silver Age or Golden Age, where it's just like a switch is flipped and he becomes evil. Whereas, because the whole point of doing a new origin post-Crisis is to add a lot of depth to what we think of as the origins to Batman, Superman, in this case Shazam, or Captain Marvel. And it's
definitely accomplishing it with Captain Marvel. It is. I would say, this is not flawless, and let's say it's very familiar to us because it's actually incredible how little it changed over the next few decades.
Yeah.
But it's definitely achieving its goal of fleshing this origin out.
But unfortunately, the villain in Black Adam isn't really. Because I think Savannah's working fine here. I think his Lemony Snicket series of unfortunate events style. Not that this book was imitating that, because that book didn't exist yet.
This was the inspiration, clearly.
But that's definitely the vibe that I'm getting from him, and I think that works for what Savannah is in this book. I think this for Black Adam, it could be more complex, and it's very simplistic in a way that I'm used to Black Adam being more intricate and maybe even more like morally grey in a lot of ways.
That's definitely kind of coming about since the early 2000s. Kind of once John started playing with it in JSA is kind of where I started associating that grey ambiguity. But I think the most interesting moment Black Adam has in this issue is right at the end, where him and Shazam are fighting it out, and Savannah uses his secret weapon. And first he's really annoyed because he's like, no, I wanted to know I could take him. He wasn't certain. He was bluffing him, playing all confident, with Billy, but he didn't know for sure, and now he's been robbed of that chance. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
No, that's a fun beat. I think the fight at the end is definitely the most interesting part. I think the art in the fight is really good. There's that full page where Captain Marvel punches Black Adam, and then there's just that tall, thin panel at the side where it shows you how he went flying through the roof when he get punched. It's like an uppercut kind of thing, right?
Yeah, really smart using a tall vertical panel like that just to show the height of the punch.
Yeah, really good layout for the fight, I think. And I do like Billy kind of figuring out, like, wait a minute, like Savannah, as soon as he realized that Black Adam was taken or pulled from another dimension, he put two and two together with what Savannah was doing in his basement. He's like, oh, wait a minute, I understand this. And I also like Black Adam being like, wait, you're building a weapon that can take someone like me down. That's how he takes down Captain Marvel. So he's like, okay, we're going to first of all deal with this Joker here, but afterwards we're going to destroy that device that you just used, because there ain't no way I'm letting that exist.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I actually think he was talking about destroying the machine that brought him back from the dimension. So, trap Billy in there and destroy the machine so he can't get out. I think the secret weapon is a separate bit that he's talking about
I took destroy your machine as destroying the weapon, just because it was just literally in the previous panel. That's what they were talking about.
In the previous panel, yeah, but in that last panel, it's like, okay, I'll deal with you later. First, we dispose of Captain Marvel by sending him into the dimension from which I returned, and then destroying your machine. I
mean, it doesn't really matter that much in the grand scheme of things. Ultimately, the plan is to, put him in another dimension and leave him there.
Yeah, that's just true.
So, is what it is. So, obviously quite nefarious. This issue is definitely the weakest of the three, and it was still an enjoyable enough read. There's still moments in there that I like, but the first third feels a little bit just kind of like a tangent, and then the middle third, well, it's important stuff to do the Black Adam origin. It's a bit overly simplistic, at least for our modern tastes, and doesn't really do anything interesting with it. So it's definitely the most tied down.
The last third is really good. And just another bit of the art layouts that I really liked in the fight is the whole issue. All the panels are just square boxes, and that's not a complaint. It's perfectly fine. But the one moment where it's not is where Shazam doesn't know where Adam is. And he's looking around confused, and the panels are slanted.
That's when he comes in.
I thought that was a great touch.
He comes in with a telephone pole and whacks him at the end of that page.
Yeah.
If I actually really like, you can see Black Adam with said pole in the background in the panel before.
Behind him, yeah.
It's a really nice little touch.
I just thought, again, though, just the paneling, the layout of just, okay, you completely break your format just for that moment. It really sells the uncertainty.
I don't always love the faces in this book, but I think the layouts and the action and the way it uses, like, it sets up a convention and then breaks it just here or there when it calls for it. I think it's really smart. There's a lot of thought going into the compositions in this.
The actual sequential storytelling is really strong.
Yeah. So, not really good. And the great thing is after the whole telephone bit, there's a great moment where they're flying towards each other, and you just get these close-ups, closer and closer in their faces.
And it really gives you that sense of, okay, no, they're getting closer to each other, but it works.
And then the next page, the top panels, the explosion of impact of them hitting each other in the sky. And then they fall back through the roof, and that's when we get to the end where Savannah uses the device. So, no, still good. I'm looking forward to the 4th issue, but it's definitely the weakest of the 3, I think, so far, for all the reasons mentioned. What are you giving issue 3 of Shazam: The New Beginning?
I think I'm giving it a 7. It would have been like a 6 or 6.5, but just those couple of moments with the art where it breaks its conventions or does something really smart with its sequencing, kind of bumps it up.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with the 7. Pretty much the same reason. I think the last third is really good. The first 2 are not that great, and they're not bad. Like, I want to make it clear, they're not a chore to read. It's just once you get to the end of the book, you go, that third could have just been ignored. It didn't really matter.
The middle one is less egregious because I get it's important, at least, to the story, and this is, the origin of both of them. So, really. So we got to have that in there. It's the first third that really feels superfluous. Like, it accomplishes nothing, really.